Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Allegheny Northern in N scale, and this is the November 2021 update. And as we got some trains running around the layout, we'll go ahead and talk about all of the stuff that was accomplished in November. So first, let's go up and look at the, we'll call it the harbor area. And that's all wired up. It's ready to go. There are my feeders. The insulation needs cut back, and the wire needs painted gray so that it will blend into the scenery and the ballast. But it's wired, it works, it's ready to go. One of the other major accomplishments here was getting this stupid switch working. This is an Atlas. It is a code 55 or 50, I can't remember which code it is, but it's not the standard Cato. And it posed some issues because the track is different scale, basically, different track weight. So to make that work, what I did was I just flattened out the rail joiner at the end, put a pad of solder on it, and then lined them up until the railheads were level. Did that on all of the different sides. It's a major pain, but it worked. And then what ended up happening was either it came this way or I did something to it. Either way, the plastic insulators that protect the frog, they were way misshapen, and I didn't notice if that's how it came out of the package or if it was something I had done. But in any event, I got in here and I filed those down, and now this thing runs beautifully. You may notice that there are these goofy wires running around here, and they go to an Atlas snap relay. And if you have not seen one of these, basically all it is a double pull, double throw connection. It's not momentary. It is constant power, but it is perfect for powering a frog when you purchase a switch that does not have that option, which I didn't think through. But fortunately, I had a snap relay. So this is a temporary setup. Because this will eventually be remote thrown. For right now, I got a hand throw on here, so when you throw the hand throw, you also have to throw the switch here to make sure the power is correct to the frog. Otherwise, you will short out. So, yeah, it's a little redneck, but it does work and it is functional. And until this whole area is ready to go, we're just gonna deal with that. One of the other areas that I've been working on has been the power plant area. So working on the scenery there, getting the building set, getting the pavement done, put in a little access road to get to the rotary dump. And it's been okay as far as getting that rebuilt. Hasn't been one of my favorite areas because it's a little difficult to reach. But once it's done, the tracks will be easy to reach, and that is what is important because that is why we redid that whole scene. So working on some scenery still there. We've got the pond, the abandoned, the old abandoned spur, and of course our dinosaurs are still hanging out in the back. Okay, over here at the terminal, I replaced all of the scratch-built areas with these Walthers kits. You can see they're built, but they're not painted. In fact, the platforms aren't even glued to the overhead cover there. So it's just sort of in place to see how things may work. And I like this a lot better because, one, there is molded concrete detail in the pad, so I don't have to try to recreate that on strip styrene. And then it looked better than what I had built, so I went, okay, this is the way to go. I had to do a little bit of track realignment to make the platforms actually usable, and of course it was some weird angle that I didn't have or Cato didn't make, because I think I have a piece of everything that they make here, and it was just easier to cut a piece of flex and put it in place. So there we go. Once that's all ballasted, you will never know the difference. I still need to custom build basically the rest of the terminal. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut these all level at some point, which is probably going to be right about the end of that coaster locomotive right there. And then I'm going to scratch build the front of the terminal, the terrace, and then the inside platform areas, the stairs and escalators and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to build all that. And then I've got to build up this actual area with the actual road bridge over this small yard, the tunnel portal. Yeah, so there's still plenty to do here, but it allows me to get this scenery done a little bit more. So that'll be key. I'm kind of tired of looking at this half done area. And I'm looking at more of the half-done area because I cleaned up all of this. So this had become a junk pile for leftover parts and pieces, and there's still a few here. But by and large, I cleaned this area up and got this ready to do the next set of scenery so that I can actually start running trains from the engine terminal sort of through the hidden under city area and then back out to the layout. Back over here, it's small detail, but I did paint the rails and clean the scenery up a little bit. Some of the trees had gotten knocked over and broken, and I wanted to get those repaired. I did run some power lines here. You can see the little guy wire. This is actually an Atlas pole that I modified to fit for what I needed. And then there's the Woodland Scenics meter and all that sort of stuff. So I did run that, and then of course there's a transformer kit back there, and then I put the power on this building as well. It's no longer rail served, but it does take up a space, so that's good. Come right over here to the gas station. I threw some people in, so I've got the owner and his dog. A couple of the mechanics are playing checkers on their lunch break, and I don't know what his story is. Maybe he's waiting for a pickup because his car's in the shop. We need some more people here to fill out that story. So there are some people showing up though. And same here on the other side, the shopping center. So I've got, this is actually the window shoppers. So they are going shopping. There's no interior yet in here. There's no lights. So looks a little weird, but at least there's some people. There's also no cars in the parking lot. So I guess they all walked. Got a little bit of guardrail installed in the back here. That's a gold metal kit and some reflectors. And I'm going to show you a little bit more of those because they're in a few areas. So they're also here. I don't know if you saw that. Got those installed. Also put some reflectors there to try to get this weird intersection figured out. And then I put some over at the Intermodal yard, so let's go take a look. So not only did I put some guardrails at the Intermodal yard, I also put some gates. And these are a Jacksonville terminal product. The gates actually do function, so you can model them in either the up position or the down, whichever you want. And then they have the little cameras and the little checkout, and then the lights, telling you green and red. The lights are non-functional, but I'm sure that with some LEDs now you could probably make them functional. They come in sets of 3, and they have different color options and pattern, warning pattern options. So check those out if you have an intermodal scene. I am going to be redoing the intermodal. It's kind of a weak little check in there. So we're going to redo that in an upcoming project. Finished up the Woodland Scenics / Super Tree hybrids and got those planted, and there's a few over there. I did find a box of Super Trees at a recent train show in the area, and I was pretty excited because 1, I got the last box, and 2, I did find out that I guess the company either relocated or had something going on, so that is why they are hard to find right now. And then I did put a little bit more guardrail right back there. Point of the Super Tree story is if you find Super Trees, you better buy them because they are a hot commodity right now. There's a shortage, just like everything else. Okay, so the other thing that I did, and there's not really much to show for it because it's sort of parts and pieces all over the layout, but I started cleaning up the layout. And what I mean by cleaning up is not just general vacuuming and dust control, but also I started reattaching scenery and structures and trees and people. And I have been doing so much work on the layout, and N scale is so fine and detailed. And I broke off a number of pieces in the process of everything that I was doing. And I know you've all probably been there. If you're any state of clumsy like I am. And fortunately, because they're all models, they can all be pretty easily glued back in place. It's just a matter of taking the time and doing that. So I've started going back through, and as I find trees that are knocked over, people that are knocked over, vehicles that are somehow in a different place than where they intended to be, I go and I put them back. So I've been doing that, trying to get everything glued into place and back to looking normal. And I mean, here's a couple examples right here. There's a drunk tree. It got broken at some point. It just needs re-drilled, re-glued, and it'll be good as new. Plus, there's a lot of scenery material, styrofoam pieces from the upper build, and just the place needed a good cleaning. So my OCD wouldn't let me leave it alone any longer. So we're getting that cleaned up. Now, it's also that time of year. I try to make the holidays my clean the layout room time. And it's one, because it's easy to remember, the holidays clean. Two, it's right before guests usually arrive. And so with guests arriving, obviously you want the trains to be running in top performance. So that's a good time to look at your locomotives, make sure that they are properly oiled and cleaned, make sure your track is cleaned and all that sort of stuff. So last year I did a little checklist of things that I do before the holidays, and I'm going to get to a similar video for this year with a few updates. Obviously I have some very large areas that I need to start working on, and I have been building some kits and thinking about my scenery and what I want in these areas. And so that has taken up some time. But I'm going to start getting these things put together here, because I have the coal mine area to finish. I have obviously this downtown area to finish, and then I have the harbor scene to finish, as well as the terminal area to get that put together. And then, not to get too philosophical into model railroading here, but I know that you'll hear that term good enough or close enough. I don't subscribe to that. I don't think that a scene is ever done. I think there is, it's either never done or there's a point at which you give up. So if you hear someone say, I do just enough, or I get it, close enough, to me, those are the quitters, because there's always something more. They come out with a new scene, they come out with a new something that you want to add, and then you add it, and then the scene looks better. So none of my scenes are ever actually done. And that's sort of what my problem has been, is because a lot of these scenes, like there's painting that needs done here, for instance, there's scenery that's not done here. I got it to a certain point and then I moved on. And so I'm going back and I'm slowly detailing this out. So this needs underbrush, it needs trees, it needs some plaster work fixed. This needs painted and weathered. There's just so much to do, even in the scenes that are, quote, completed. I think I've gone back and I've added parts and pieces to this paving scene at least 3 separate times. There's always something that can be added to the engine terminals, or it just, it looks very empty to me. So there's scenery that needs to be added. There's details that need to be added. So I'm trying to go back and add those details, and not lose sight of that, while also trying to get some of these bigger areas done. So in 2021, I'm going to try to get these scenes a little bit more completed, but I'm going to be focusing a lot more on the bigger scenes that are just sort of barren, and they need to have stuff done to them. So not 2021, 2022. We're getting ready for a new one here. So that's what's upcoming. The other thing is operations. So I've got this upper deck now that I didn't have before, and I have trains that are realistically originating on the lower deck or the upper deck, and they're going to a point on the opposite. So I need to come up with a good operating scheme. Now, one of the main problems that I'm having is in order to get from the upper deck to the lower deck, there is a hidden helix that's behind that wall there. There's a hidden helix, and there's a staging yard. And the thought process was, okay, if a train originates on the lower deck, then it's going to just simply do what it's going to do down here, and then it's going to go up into the hidden staging. It'll wait there. Then eventually, when I get around behind the wall, it'll get switched out, and then the coal cars will go to the mine. The other cars will go to the city, and then the intermodal cars, well, they don't have to go to the yard at all. They can come right up, go through that hole, and then right to the port. The problem is when they go behind the wall, I don't have X-ray vision. I lose track of them. I don't know where they're at. So a couple of thoughts were maybe put in a closed circuit camera that I can mount and just visualize trains coming up, so I know where they are in staging, know where they are in the helix. Not that I'm worried about them necessarily getting stuck or stalled, but it happens. And my helix is fairly tight. The grade is fairly steep, so it needs a little extra help. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is if the train needs to get broken down into staging in the back, maybe the whole train doesn't go necessarily, it's on a unit train for one of those two locations, then I actually have to go behind the wall into staging and do that. Well, the problem is, I don't know if you've noticed this when I've been panning around the room, the layout itself legitimately goes all the way around the room. So this section right here that we're looking at, this transition section here, is actually a bridge. It's on wheels. It's got its own little cables. It disconnects and slides out of the way. It's actually very awkward, especially for guests. Coming up with a game plan maybe to bring our track back against the wall, bring it all the way around, do some different things up here to get this track to turn as well, and actually make it so that, one, I can do two things. One, I can completely get rid of my helix, because I hate it. I've always hated helixes. I hated building them, and I hate having one on my railroad. And then that'll increase my run actually fairly substantially, so that when trains leave for the back area, they'll actually have a whole other room basically to go along. Of course, there's a furnace and a water heater and a washer and dryer and other things that are in the way over there. So sort of planning that out. I don't think that is a 2022 project. I think that's like way beyond that. I've got enough stuff that I'm working on right now, so expanding more is not really in the cards. But for operational standpoint, since I am a sole operator and can basically only operate one side of the layout at a time, it's difficult to get back and forth between the hidden area and the visible area. So kind of working on a way to make that better. So if there's anybody that has any suggestions or ideas, certainly willing to listen. And we'll see if collectively we can come up with something better than what I've got. So in addition to actually working on the layout itself, I do have a couple of things sitting on my workbench that I'm working on. So obviously when we looked at the terminal and you saw the platforms, they're not really assembled all the way. All the details not added. They're not painted. So they're a work in progress. I am working on Will & Scenics. It is their Fresh Market kit. It's a Landmark Structures. The reason I like it is because the way it's set up, it looks like some of the very old downtown buildings that we have here in Pittsburgh. And it reminded me a little bit of some of the storefronts that used to be down on the Strip District. So I am going to paint this and try to mimic the look and feel of a much older part of town. That was my goal for the upper city area. And so this is my first kit there. I have some of the other Will & Scenics kits that are basically, they came in the Town and Country or Town and City or whatever the hell that big kit's called. I think through a series of kit bashing and whatnot, I'm going to make some various structures that are going to be the backdrop for that area. Just some background buildings. And my goal is to eventually all of these buildings are get some interiors in them. So at some point in time, when I get bored or when I need something else to keep me occupied, I am going to start building interiors for all my building kits and lighting and all that sort of stuff. So The other thing that we're looking at is I've been doing some research on signals for the layout, and you can really go as simple or as complicated as you want. I mean, you can. I mean, with the state of computers these days, you can almost get it to the point where your layout is fully automated, which to me takes the fun out of model railroading. But you know, I guess for some people that might be a thing. So, looking into some signals, that is probably going to be a 22 modeling year start. Signals seem to be very, very expensive. The control boards seem to be very, very expensive. And like everything else in the country right now, they are also seem to be in short supply. So we'll see how that all pans out. But one other model kit that I did want to bring attention to is something that actually a viewer had recommended. In one of my videos, I was bemoaning the fact that I could not find a good container ship. And he had pointed out, well, Sylvan makes a modern container ship. And this is a fairly decent representation of a modern container ship. It is not quite the ships that you would see, say, in the port of Savannah or Jacksonville, or anchored off the coast of California, but it is close enough. There's that word, right? That phrase, close enough. It's pretty close. The superstructure is similar. The modern container ships tend to be more linear up front. They also tend to have cargo space in the back behind the superstructure. This model was actually built in '71, and if you read right here, it was scrapped in Turkey in 2002. So this ship is gone. I did try to do some online research just to find out where this ship, where it was, where it went, what it did, and I found very little information on it. Some of the other Manchester Lines ships there was information on, but apparently this particular one either didn't have much of a story or nobody wanted to tell the story because I couldn't find much with it. But needless to say, this boat kit is almost 2 feet long, so it's a fairly good size structure. And I'm hoping that the fact that this boat is that big doesn't make my intermodal port look too small. So I may build this kit next, even though this is not really the next thing I need to be working on, just because I'm kind of stoked about building a boat. I've never built a boat before. I've always been fascinated by those big container ships, and I am looking forward to building this. So that is a wrap for November. Obviously, projects are coming up. I don't know, with Christmas coming up, New Year's, travels, yada, yada, yada. I don't know how much the December update is going to have, but there will be a December update. And then there's a few other videos that I am planning on doing. I have a weathering of a patched car coming up. I know I've hinted at that a couple of times. I'm actually going to do it. And then I've got, I'm going to do a getting your layout ready for the new year. I know I've done one of those in the past, but there are some new tips and tricks and things that I want to share with everybody. So we're going to go through that. Until next time, signing off for the Allegheny Northern. We'll see you in December.